a news story tonight, a very provocative story within the last hour that may give us a little bit of a window into why the two sides, the two major political parties in the United States right now, seem like they are coming from two different planets. And they are trying to do two totally different things. It may have a little bit to do with the relationship between the fringe, the extreme, and the middle. The distance between the, not just not governing, but really far out there, sort of non-respectable fringe and the actual governing part of the party. Here's a story. About 25 years ago, 1997, the flagship conservative magazine, the National Review, went through one of its periodic purges. They realized, as they periodically do, that they were employing some writers, they were publishing some pieces that were just too racist. They have periodically realized this over the course of the history of this magazine. They have to do this when they have ended up publishing people who claimed that, white people are naturally more intelligent than everybody else, that white people are genetically superior to all other races. They were publishing a guy who argued that white parents and Asian parents should teach their children to avoid black people. They published a guy who argued that America was in the midst of a genocide of white people because of non-white immigrants coming into America. The National Review periodically has had to do these kinds of purges, but the one they did in 1997 resulted in a new home being founded, effectively for people like that who the National Review has to fire. In 1999, an organization was set up called VDARE. And VDARE, they say, stands for the name Virginia Dare, who they say was supposedly the first white child born in colonial America. You can see where this is going, right? The founder of VDARE, one of these guys who got fired from the National Review for his whites-only immigration stuff, he founded VDARE, basically set it up as an online hub for people to advance academic-sounding and political-sounding racism. And I don't mean that in a vague kind of way. I mean it really specifically. The founder of VDARE calls himself a racial nationalist. What does that mean? It means in this nation, it should just be the one race. He said the Obama administration was a minority occupation government, meaning it was not an American government, but it was a minority occupation by some foreign entity. He also says, and forgive me for even quoting this, but he says that Hispanics, quote, specialize in rape. He says the United States, quote, is a white nation. So this is stuff that's like off the edge, right? Or at least it used to be. In 2018, CNN reported that a speechwriter in the Trump White House had spoken at a white nationalist conference and done a panel with the founder of VDARE just a few days before Election Day in 2016. And when that news came out in CNN, that speechwriter was fired from the Trump White House. But these guys have to land somewhere, right? Turns out that guy, who went straight from appearing with the VDARE guy at the white nationalist event the week of the 2016 election, he went, straight from there to a job working in the Trump White House as a speechwriter thereafter. When he was fired from even the Trump White House, he first briefly landed a new speechwriter job with Congressman Matt Gaetz, who just tonight has filed this motion to vacate to remove Republican Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy from his job for the capital crime of working with Democrats to keep the government open. So this guy, fired from the Trump White House, briefly lands as a speechwriter with Matt Gaetz. Then he lands at a website, a right-wing website that, among other things, pushes the conspiracy theory that there wasn't really an attack on the U.S. Capitol by a Trump-supporting mob on January 6, 2021. That was actually an FBI operation with FBI agents and informants and operators just pretending to be Trump supporters because deep state, flat earth, QAnon, whatever. Well, now NBC News reports just within the last hour that it is that guy's far-right website that appears to have published the blueprint for right-wing billionaire Elon Musk to buy the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, to take it private, and then to basically kill it off as a means of helping the far right and hurting the United States of America. The article called it a, quote, declaration.
Baby go. Baby go, go, go. Baby what? Baby baby ooh. Baby yeah. Baby go, 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 go.
Declaration of war against the globalist American empire. So that's how things are going on the right. Right? In the Democratic Party, it's former President Jimmy Carter in hospice, turning 99. He may yet eradicate guinea worm infection from the face of the earth before he goes, as part of his legacy of good works and practical post-presidency decency and leadership. We've got the current Democratic president running for re-election by showcasing how much he wants to work with Democrats and Republicans and how much it's okay to compromise and not get everything you want as long as you bring people together, and he's committed to that. On the right, it's a, what's the phrase? A declaration of war against the globalist American empire. Shaping the media landscape in America. And a former president indicted on 91 felonies and spending his days now trying to sick his supporters on the judges and prosecutors who are confronting him in court. Both sidesism about our two major political parties has really never been warranted in this country in modern times, not in my lifetime. Right now, it is not just unwarranted, it is malpractice. One of these things is not at all like the other. Ben Collins from NBC News joins us next. If you have a passion for protecting the integrity of elections and civic events, X is certainly at the center of the conversation. Hashtag Twitter, hashtag X, hashtag hiring. This was the head of the election integrity team at Twitter a little more than a month ago, announcing that the company was hiring 8 new people for its election integrity department. With lots of important elections coming up around the world, including our own next year, this might seem like an excellent time to strengthen the team at Twitter that watches out for disinformation and threats related to elections. Apparently not, though. Last week, we learned that the new owner of Twitter, right-wing billionaire Elon Musk, just unexpectedly cut half of the election integrity team at the company, including the guy who just a month before said the company was hiring for that department. Mr. Musk confirmed the firings himself on Twitter. Since taking control of the company a year ago, Mr. Musk has not just reinstated accounts that had been banned for harassment or misinformation or inciting violence. He's also taken some weird turns, like when he started blaming the Jewish civil rights group, the Anti-Defamation League, for Twitter's financial failings. For a social media platform that had become ingrained in daily life and conversation and politics and journalism for millions of people, his tenure there, it hasn't just been the loss of a once reliable information platform. It has been that. But it's also sometimes just been weird, which is what makes this next story that's just out tonight from NBC News so intriguing. This is new tonight from Ben Collins of NBC News. He writes, quote, on the day that public records revealed that Elon Musk had become Twitter's biggest shareholder, an unknown sender texted the billionaire and recommended an article imploring him to acquire the social media outright. Musk's purchase of Twitter, the 3,000-word anonymous article said, would amount to a declaration of war against the globalist American empire. The sender of the text was offering the Tesla and SpaceX CEO a playbook for the takeover and transformation of Twitter. As the anniversary of Musk's purchase of the platform approaches, the identity of the sender remains unknown. The 3 texts were sent on April 4th, 2022. In the nearly 18 months since, many of the decisions made by Musk after buying Twitter appear to have closely followed that roadmap, up to and including his ongoing attacks against the Anti-Defamation League, a nonprofit organization founded by Jewish Americans to counter discrimination. The article recommended to Musk was published with no byline on a site run by a far-right blogger and former Trump White House speechwriter who was fired in 2018 for speaking on a panel alongside white nationalists. Asked by NBC News if he knew who sent the text to Musk and who wrote the article that Musk had recommended to him, the former Trump speechwriter declined to comment and instead suggested that the ADL should be investigated. Quote, "I think I'm familiar with it, but I'm not in a position to comment on that," the man said. Quote, "I wish I could give you something else, but you should look into the ADL." Joining us now is Ben Collins, senior reporter for NBC News. Ben, thank you for being with us tonight. I'm really intrigued by this new reporting.
Thank you. It's been a long journey with this story.
Well, tell me about that. First of all, tell me if I got anything wrong in the way that I explained it, and tell me about why it's been a long journey.
No, you got absolutely everything right there. And it's been a long journey because we've been trying to find out who sent that text message. That text message is even public because Twitter tried to sue Elon Musk to get him to go through the purchase of Twitter last year. And Elon initially said, no, I'm not doing that. Part of the discovery process was him revealing a bunch of these texts. Most of these texts in that discovery process were publicly known who sent them. For example, Richard Spencer, the white nationalist, his name is in this tranche of documents. It's a long laundry list of people, including like an InfoWars host, who are in these documents. But for some reason, despite a 9-month fight with the Delaware Chancery Court that me and my colleague Laura Kolodny at CNBC went through, we still cannot figure out who sent this text message.
And the text message recommended to Mr. Musk that he look at this article. And the article laid out that he should buy Twitter, and use it as essentially as part of a project to destroy the American empire. And it sort of laid out a series of things that he should do, but also ways in which people would react once he did those things, kind of laying out the way that Twitter has collapsed and turned very, very right-wing.
Yeah, this blog outlines exactly what would happen for the next 18 months. Basically, he says you should invite back on all the far-right users. That might chase away most users, most people from this website that you now own, that you paid for. But it's worth it for the project. And by the way, you're going to lose all your advertisers. He says this outright. But then he says, I have a plan for that. You should blame the ADL, which to most people would come out of left field in the last few weeks. Like, why is Elon Musk so angry at the ADL? But in this sphere, in what I would call the Bannon sphere, this is where Darren Beattie sort of lives, the ADL is a common enemy. And Darren Beattie went on, after this was published on his blog, he went on Tucker Carlson's website and basically recited the stuff, on Tucker Carlson's show, which no longer exists, and basically recited the stuff one-to-one. So I don't know exactly where Elon Musk saw this stuff, probably when he was texted it. But it is pretty clearly a playbook that Elon Musk either ran directly parallel to or read from himself.
And I mean, the thing about the Anti-Defamation League being the target here is this is a Jewish civil rights organization. To have these two things line up, where you've got these recommendations to Musk to do all these things that he has done that will elicit the reaction that has occurred, and then he should blame a Jewish civil rights group, to have that, along with people proposing that sort of roadmap publicly, who are associated with white nationalists. And a ragged far-right fringe so distasteful to even the Trump White House that they felt the need to fire somebody from the White House who was espousing these kinds of views and associating with these people. I mean, that to me just feels like fireworks. It just feels like an incredibly dangerous thing.
Yeah, if you actually look back through this, and I've talked to a lot of people on the Elon Musk beat over the last few months, and what they want to say to you is that while all of this stuff looks like chaos and nonsense and like he doesn't know what he's doing, it's possible this guy had a plan. And just because a plan is bad and leads to bad outcomes for almost everybody doesn't mean he didn't have a plan. And that's what we saw, coming out of this. Can I just read you to the end of this article? Because it's kind of fascinating. He says, the globalist American empire will never be brought down unless people like Elon Musk are ready to step up to the plate with the genuinely bold, risky, and meaningful moves like buying and liberating Twitter. But it will not be easy. It will be war. Let the battle begin. That's what was texted him, by the way, at the end there. And then they recommend hiring a, like a CEO of enforcement, which they wound up doing with Linda Yaccarino. Basically, one-to-one, this strategy happened in real time on Twitter. So I'm just suggesting, maybe think about this as a plan. It's a bad plan for you and me, but it may have been a plan all along.
Ben Collins, senior reporter for NBC News. Ben, thank you for this reporting. Thank you for your time tonight. We'll be right back.